Hey guys, so this is your tutorial for using Plotly to do a graph. So let's go. The first thing you need to do is go to plotly.com, or sorry, Plotly, Plot.ly, this web address up here, and either sign up or log in if you aren't signed up yet. So up in the right corner it'll have sign up or sign in, create a user account, feel free to use your student ID and student Google account to sign up. Once you're logged in, your screen should look like this, and you'll go to New, Grid, and this will bring up like your spreadsheet looking thing to enter your data in. So remember that your independent variable is always your x variable. It goes on the x-axis, and our independent variable for this lab is the number of drops of acid or base that we added. And so I'm going to make sure that choose as x is selected here so that it goes on the x-axis. And then in the table, I'll enter those values in this column going down. So we started with 0 drops, 5 drops, 10 drops, 15 drops, 20, and so on, all the way up to 30. In the second column, we're going to choose the first line that we want to graph. So you'll be graphing 6 lines total here. So the first one that I want to do is to name this water plus acid. And I want to make sure that the choose as y is graphed here. And you'll enter your own group's data for this. I'm going to make up some data. So don't use mine, use your own groups. But I'll say initially, before I added acid to my water, it had a pH of 7.2. Then it went up to 9.9, then 10.3, then 11.2, then 11.7, then 11.1, I'm sorry, 11.8, 12.1. So this is just made up data, right? And you're going to want to do this for every line that you want to graph. So in the next column, we'll do our water plus base. Choose that as another y variable, and then you'll enter your data for this. So let's say that was 7.3, 4.7, 3.3, 2.8, 2.4, 1.9, 1.8. So again, just made up data. And you'll do this for every single thing. So you'll have one y variable for your water plus acid, one y variable for your water plus base, one y variable for your biological material plus acid, one for your biological material plus base, one for buffer and acid, and one for buffer and base. So you'll have 7 columns total, x and then 6 y's, 4, 5, 6. Remember that for your biological material, you're graphing only the one that your group did. So just your group's data. Don't use the entire class's data. So once you've had all those entered, now it's time to actually make our graph. So here we'll say make a plot, and we want it to be a scatter plot. So we just want the dots on my graph. You can see over here we've got this thing going, and we'll say it's a new plot, and we'll click scatter plot, and it brings up my graph for me. Okay, so you can see the orange is my water and base, as shown in the legend over here, and the blue is my water plus acid. So you can see these general patterns that we've made here. But what I want to do is to use this graph to visualize how these trends change over time. So what is the pattern between these variables as I go from beginning to end? And we do that using a best fit curve. So to enter that in, you're going to go to Fit Data up here on the top. So we can click Fit Data. And we're going to choose each of these data sets for our fit data. So the first one is water and acid. And we'll add a fit to this trace. When you get here, you can choose between a number of different types of lines and curves. So we could start with linear and say fit that. Okay. And this is what it looks like. And you can see that this does show that pH increases, but it doesn't do a very good job of describing the curve that seems to be shown in my dots. Especially for this first one, you can see that the line misses this first data point badly. So instead, let's edit this, go to edit our fit, and we can change this to a different type of function. So what about a polynomial, a quadratic? Okay, let's check that out. That seems to fit a lot better. It's still missing this second point and this first point pretty badly. So what if we try a different fit again? Edit fit. Let's try exponential. Okay. That seems to look a lot better, right? It goes through my first point. It's a little bit below this one, but a little bit above this one, so that's a nice average of these data. And you can see that it follows the trend of my data very well. So I'm going to leave that one in there. Then I'm going to add another fit, except changing my y variable from water and acid to water and base. You can add a fit line for that as well. Again, if I add a linear fit, okay, it shows that there's some relationship. As I add more as I add more acid, the pH decreases, but it's not doing a very good job describing my overall pattern of my data. So let's change that. We seemed to do pretty well with exponential before, so let's try that again. Again, we'll have this be water and base, edit that fit, and have it be exponential. And again, you can see that does a much better job of visualizing my data. So that's how to create your scatter plot and your best fit lines. A couple of other things to observe here. One is my y-axis doesn't start at 0. And that's okay in this case because we're looking at pH and pH doesn't get down to 0. But if we wanted it to start at 0, you can change your axes by clicking the axes button. And then you could say, I want my x-axis to start at 0. Because I did start with 0 drops. And when we close that out, now you can see that my x-axis starts at 0. I can also go to axes and have my y-axis start at 0. And let's have it go up to 13, just so we have a nice visual here. All right, so now you can see these data all the way up from 0 to 13. We can do some other things, like include grid lines, right? And we can have our grid lines be we can set the value for my grid lines. So you can have it be 1, 1.5. Let's have it be 1, and let's include with ticks. Check that out. Cool. So now we have my axes, my grid lines for my data, etc. Okay, every good graph needs a title, and that title should describe what your graph shows. So my graph shows changes in pH of water, biomaterial, and buffer. And you'll have 6 lines here again. And then you need to label your axes. So my y-axis here is pH. There are no units to pH. My x-axis here is number of drops. And there are no units here because it's an absolute number. So looking at this, it's a great graph that we have here. If we ever need to add more data or go back, you simply go back to your grid. We can add in another column. Potato plus acid. Set it as a y value, enter in data, 0, I don't know. Whatever your data is, and then replot it. Scatter plot. Create that scatter plot, and now we have our third data set. I don't have any data entered, but you could see that it would show up. Okay, and that's all. If you have any other further questions, you know where to find me, and enjoy. Good luck.